Hello everyone, Pallytime here with TGN.TV. This is the continuation of my series where I drop all of the knowledge bombs that you need to know about the Elder Scrolls Online. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the combat systems in place in the Elder Scrolls Online. But first, I want to cover something about last week's video. In last week's video, we talked about the classes that are going to be available in the game, and I wrote all of that information out before PAX East happened. And some new information coming out of PAX East suggests that they reduced the number of starting classes from 6 to 4. So we're going to have the Dragon Knight, the Templar, the Sorcerer, and the Nightblade. And the reason for this change was to provide more freedom for character advancement and basically bottleneck you less in your character development. Alright, so combat in the Elder Scrolls Online. There are two targeting systems. The first one we're going to talk about is the soft lock targeting, which essentially means that you take your crosshair, which is in the middle of your screen, and you place it on the enemy that you want to attack. As long as you keep that crosshair reasonably close to the target, you will land your attacks. If your aim sucks, you're going to completely miss. Now this applies to both ranged attacks from, let's say, archers and mages, as well as up close and personal melee attacks. The second targeting system is similar to tab targeting from other MMOs. This allows you to focus a specific enemy within a group. It's important to note though that even with the tab targeting system, you still have to use the soft lock system in conjunction with it. So what is tab targeting? Let's say that if we have a group of 5 enemies all clumped up and you want to target a specific enemy, let's say you want to target the healer. You can tab target, find the healer, and all of your attacks will land on that target as long as you are still using the soft lock system effectively. In order to enhance the action combat feel, combat focuses around the opportunistic use of a stamina bar, which allows the player to sprint, block, interrupt attacks, and escape crowd control abilities. By selectively using these strategic abilities, combat in the Elder Scrolls Online feels dynamic, despite adhering to turn-based fundamentals which are critical to MMO design. Now, by turn-based fundamentals, we're not talking about Final Fantasy, old school Final Fantasy, where I attack and you wait, and then you attack and I wait. We're simply talking about the small amount of time in between attacks that all MMOs pretty much have. The player's currently equipped weapon determines their available left mouse attacks. A normal left click triggers a precise light attack, while holding down the left mouse will initiate a hard-hitting heavy attack, very similar to all the other Elder Scrolls games. Your weapon's power attack will apply certain additional properties if an enemy is currently afflicted by certain states. For example, if an enemy's spellcaster is dazed after just being interrupted, a follow-up power attack will apply additional damaging effects. There is a system in place to actively swap out weapons in mid-combat, including the set of skills tied to that weapon. Weapon swapping costs a certain amount of stamina and magicka, and this ability is unlocked at level 15. Holding the right mouse button engages the active blocking mode, which intercepts incoming blows at the cost of stamina. While blocking, a left click executes a shield bash or weapon bash if you're dual wielding, which interrupts enemy spellcasting or will break you out of crowd control effects. If you block a power attack from an enemy, that enemy will be dazed and become vulnerable. Double tapping a movement key allows your character to perform an active dodge. This consumes some stamina, but it allows you to evade an incoming attack. Sounds a lot like Guild Wars 2. We briefly talked about this in the last video, but each class can select 5 hotbar abilities at a time, which are chosen from their class pool of abilities. This does not mean you have 5 abilities in the game, but this means that you can only use 5 abilities at a time. It's important to make that distinction. A lot of people didn't seem to get that in the last video. These abilities have no cooldown, but cost either stamina or magicka to activate. Each ability is designed to have a substantial impact on combat, so it's not only the selection of abilities that is important, but also how players use these skills will play a major role in their combat success. When you first slot a new ability in your hotbar, you only possess a novice level of using it. As you use it in combat more and more, you can improve and enhance them in various ways. The final hotbar, or the 6th slot in the hotbar for every class, is filled with an ultimate ability, which is usable after a player accumulates sufficient finesse. Every class has multiple ultimate abilities to choose from, but may only utilize one at a time. Finesse is a resource mechanic that builds through successful performance in combat. Bonus finesse is awarded for, quote, playing smart. For example, interrupting an enemy spellcast or blocking a dangerous attack will boost your finesse. Groups of players can rapidly accumulate finesse by performing attack combos that use synergetic abilities to produce a special effect. Completing an encounter with high finesse yields additional rewards, ranging from a small experience boost to additional magical loot. Synergy abilities are what happens when multiple players working together create a powerful magical effect by combining multiple abilities. These cross-class combo opportunities will prompt visual cues on the screen to help parties effectively combine their powers. For example, a mage can cast Firestorm, and the warrior can run into the middle of that and cast, let's say, Bladestorm, which would cause a spray of fireballs in a 360-degree radius. Enemy creatures will work together if they cross paths, and the enemy UI is smart enough to exploit the same synergies against the player. Enemies can and will team up to use their superior numbers against the player. Now, these synergy abilities work both ways, and a successful group will have to both employ their own cross-class combos as well as prevent their enemies from doing the same. Enemies also have a factional synergy. Opponents belonging to the same political group can combine their abilities for combat bonuses unique to that political group. Combat, class, and ultimate abilities may be changed whenever you want, provided that you are not in combat. Because The Elder Scrolls Online uses a smaller number of active combat abilities than most other games, the design team is ensuring that every ability a player can use is awesome and powerful, while eliminating those filler abilities that provide only supplementary benefit. There is a quick potion slot key on the Q key, which is going to allow players to drink potions in the middle of combat, and those potions are going to have a 20 to 30 second cooldown. Not too sure why they were so adamant on signaling out the Q key, just to make sure you knew it was there. Seems a little weird. But there's going to be other things on top of that. There's going to be foods and other things you can do to buff your character out of combat to make you better in combat. And there's not very much information released about healing abilities. I know most of what we talked about so far kind of reflects how you deal damage in combat, but healing abilities are available as class abilities for many classes, as well as weapon abilities when using stuff like the Restoration Staff. Now, most heals are either a radial or conal area of effect. So what does that mean? That means that basically most healing abilities are AoE, either in front of the player or around the player, although there are some single target abilities also. Alright guys, well that's all I could find about the combat in The Elder Scrolls Online. Did I miss anything? Let me know down in the comments below, and I can make a second video if I missed a lot. Let me know what you guys think of these combat systems. Personally, I think it's going to be pretty exciting, especially if it's pulled off well. They just need to make sure that the combat is very responsive. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. But alright guys, that's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please be sure to hit that thumbs up button below. And if you're new to this channel, I encourage you to subscribe.